The back-to-back Masters champion just created a firestorm at Aronimink. First, he dropped an expletive that had moderators cringing and fans calling him classless. Then he smashed his driver into the turf on live television as rules officials watched closely. And just when you thought the controversy was over, he looked at a thrilling bunched leaderboard and declared it a sign of not a great setup. Now, golf fans are furious. They're calling him spoiled, pathetic, a sore loser. This is the massive debate nobody saw coming. Golf Untold has the complete untold story. For more coverage in golf, subscribe and hit the notification bell. The storm began on Thursday at Aronimink Golf Club in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. Rory McIlroy, the defending Masters champion and the man many expected to contend for his third PGA Championship title, walked off the course after his opening round with his head down and his frustration boiling over. He had just shot a 4-over-par 74, a score that left him facing the very real possibility of missing the cut at a major championship for the first time in years. His round had started poorly and ended worse. 4 consecutive bogeys to finish, 2 birdies, 2 more bogeys before that, and only 5 fairways hit all day. The numbers told a painful story. McIlroy needed 36 putts. His driving, usually his greatest weapon, had abandoned him completely. "I'm just not driving the ball well enough," he admitted later. "It's been a problem all year for the most part. I miss it right, and then I want to try to correct it, and then I'll overdo it, and I'll miss it left." But it was not just the statistics that caught everyone's attention. It was the raw, unfiltered anger that spilled out in full view of cameras, fans, and reporters. When a tournament moderator asked McIlroy to sum up his first round in the press conference, the world number 2 did not sugarcoat his answer. He did not reach for a diplomatic phrase about learning experiences or fighting hard. He looked at the moderator and delivered a single word that stopped everyone in their tracks. "Shit," he said bluntly. The room went silent. Reporters exchanged glances. The moderator moved quickly to the next question, but the damage was done. The expletive was out there, captured on video, ready to be shared across every social media platform within minutes. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Golf fans took to X, formerly known as Twitter, to express their disappointment. "He's an easy guy to root against," one fan wrote. Another was even harsher, declaring, "No class from Rory McIlroy. Young fans are watching." The criticism stung because it came from people who had once counted themselves among McIlroy's biggest supporters. He had always been the golden boy of golf, the polite, thoughtful, articulate superstar who said all the right things. But on this Thursday at Aronimink, that image shattered. But for every critic, there was a defender. Some fans appreciated McIlroy's honesty in an era of scripted athlete responses. "I appreciate Rory's honesty," one fan wrote. Another noted he gave a thoughtful explanation after the initial comment. The debate had begun. Was McIlroy being unprofessionally emotional, or was he simply a competitor showing the kind of passion that fans claim they want to see? The answer, it seemed, depended entirely on which fan you asked, and the debate was only getting started. The expletive in the press conference was not the only moment of anger that cameras captured on Thursday. Earlier in the round, as McIlroy's game continued to unravel, something happened that raised even more serious questions. On the par 4 fourth hole, his 13th hole of the day, McIlroy hit another wayward tee shot. The ball disappeared into thick rough. The frustration that had been building for hours finally boiled over. McIlroy took his driver and hammered it into the turf. The act of aggression was caught on live television. Every fan watching at home saw the club smash against the ground. The incident immediately raised questions about whether McIlroy had crossed a line under golf's newly updated code of conduct. The rules are stricter now. Players are expected to take good care of the course, and just days earlier, another player had learned how serious the officials were about enforcing these rules. Garrick Higo, a South African golfer, received a 2-stroke penalty after arriving just 1 minute late for his tee time. If a minute late cost 2 strokes, what would club abuse cost? Sky Sports commentator and former Ryder Cup player Andrew Coulthard wondered aloud if officials would review McIlroy's actions. "Now then, with the strict code of conduct in place now, I just wonder whether the rules officials will take a look at that," Coulthard said during the broadcast. The golf world waited to see if McIlroy would face discipline. Ultimately, tournament officials decided against taking further action, but the fact that the question was even asked showed how much had changed. The old days of emotional outbursts without consequences were over. Paul McGinley, another former Ryder Cup captain, analyzed McIlroy's struggles from a technical perspective while speaking to Sky Sports. He didn't putt very well, but it all goes back to off the tee, McGinley explained. All of his dropped shots except for one were dropped from being wild off the tee and unable to recover. McGinley pointed to the Masters as evidence. Even there, McIlroy had ranked second last in driving accuracy. He got away with it at Augusta. At Aronimink, the rough was too punishing. McGinley's analysis highlighted a deeper concern. A lot of players said this week there was no strategy off the tee and you just belt driver everywhere, but the scoring proved that that is not the case. You miss fairways at your peril around here, as the greens are treacherous. You need to hit the fairway to have control. The message was clear. McIlroy's anger was not just about one bad round. It was about a weakness in his game that had been exposed on the biggest stage, and his reaction to that exposure, the expletive and the club smash, had turned his personal struggle into a public controversy.
Just when it seemed the controversy could not get any bigger, Rory McIlroy walked into the media center after his second round and poured gasoline on the fire. He had just played brilliantly, shooting a bogey-free 67 to climb back into contention. He was 5 shots off the lead heading into the weekend. Any satisfaction from the comeback, however, was quickly eclipsed by what he said next. McIlroy looked at the leaderboard. 43 golfers were within 5 shots of the lead. It was bunched, tight, competitive, and in McIlroy's opinion, that was a problem. "I think it's a sign of not a great setup," he declared. "I think when it's as bunched as it is because it hasn't really enabled anyone to separate themselves." He continued, explaining his reasoning. "It's easy to make a ton of pars, hard to make birdies, and not that it's hard to make bogey, but it feels like bogey's the worst score you're going to shoot on any one hole." McIlroy acknowledged that the course itself was good, the pins were tough, the wind was a factor, but he stood by his assessment. "I've always felt like really good setups it starts to spread the field a bit, and not great setups sort of bring everyone together. I feel like that's what's happened the last 2 days." The implication was clear. The PGA of America had failed to create a setup that properly separated the best players from the rest. The reaction from golf fans was swift and brutal. Social media erupted with criticism. One fan called McIlroy totally spoiled and suggested he thinks every course should be to his standards. Another labeled him a sore loser. The comments kept coming. "This is totally pathetic from Rory. His comments actually make no sense at all," one fan fumed. Even some of Rory's own supporters were turned off. "I'm a big Rory fan, but complaining about a course setup that's led to a bunched leaderboard isn't a great look," one wrote. Other fans pointed out what seemed obvious to them. The bunched leaderboard was not evidence of a bad setup, it was evidence of a great one. PGA Tour players not being able to score well is literally the sign of a great course setup, one fan sarcastically claimed. Another wrote, "As a fan, I love it. What he sees as bad, the fan sees as entertaining. It's boring watching players just annihilate courses." The overwhelming fan sentiment was that the PGA of America had nailed the setup at Aronimink. McIlroy, it seemed, was in the minority. The debate over McIlroy's comments exposed a growing gap between what players want and what fans expect from professional golf. Players like McIlroy want setups that reward great shots and punish bad ones in ways that allow the best players to separate themselves from the field. They want leaderboards that spread out, where the true champion emerges from the pack. Fans, however, want drama. They want bunched leaderboards. They want uncertainty. They want to watch on Sunday afternoon not knowing who will win until the final putt drops. One fan summed up the sentiment perfectly. "The setup has given us a tight leaderboard and more entertainment. Rory is mad he is not near the top of the leaderboard." Another questioned McIlroy's logic directly. "I mean, isn't that proving the opposite? No one can separate. Course is hard. You better take your par and move on." The fans were not buying what McIlroy was selling. They saw a player who was frustrated with his own performance, looking for something else to blame. McIlroy was not alone in his complaints. Scottie Scheffler, the world #1, had also expressed frustration with the setup, particularly the pin locations during the second round. "That was one of the craziest pins that I've seen," Scheffler said. "Your ball wasn't going to roll off 50 yards away, but that was like they put the pin on this microphone. It was just like a high point. I hadn't seen anything like it." But Scheffler's comments did not generate the same level of backlash. The difference, perhaps, was that Scheffler was still in contention. He was 2 shots off the lead. McIlroy was 5 back. Other players, however, quietly agreed with McIlroy's assessment that the setup was making it difficult for anyone to break away. Paul McGinley noted that Aronimink was punishing anyone who missed fairways, and that the treacherous greens required precise approach shots. The course was hard, there was no doubt about that, but whether that hardness constituted a not great setup was a matter of perspective. For fans watching at home, the hardness was exactly what made the tournament exciting. For McIlroy, fighting to stay in contention, it was a source of frustration. The controversy surrounding McIlroy's PGA Championship comments went beyond his on-course frustrations. Before the tournament even began, McIlroy had sparked a separate debate with his remarks about the DP World Tour's new pathway to the PGA Tour. Under a new operational agreement, the top 10 finishers on the DP World Tour each season now earn PGA Tour cards. McIlroy praised the system as amazing and incredible. He pointed to Christopher Reinert, who finished 8th in the Race to Dubai standings last year, earned his PGA Tour card, and then won the Truist Championship last week, taking home a $3.6 million winner's check that nearly matched his entire DP World Tour career earnings. "I think it's amazing. I also think it speaks to the incredible pathway the DP World Tour players have to get their cards," McIlroy said. "You get your PGA Tour card out of that, play your way into the signature events, and then it's the system working." He saw Reinert's success as proof of the meritocracy in professional golf. It's that upward trajectory that you can get on whenever you play well and you shoot the scores, and Christopher last week is a prime example of that. But Ian Woosnam, the 1991 Masters champion and a legend of the DP World Tour, saw things very differently. Woosnam took to social media to sharply criticize McIlroy's position. "Amazing that the DP Tour loses the very best 10 players every year and weakening the DP Tour," Woosnam wrote. He continued, questioning the long-term impact of the rule change. "How does the DP Tour bring in sponsorship for tournaments when losing them players? What really is the DP Tour now? I see it as a feeder tour for the PGA Tour." Wow. Woosnam's critique struck at the heart of a difficult question. Was the new pathway strengthening the DP World Tour by giving its players a dream to chase, or was it weakening the tour by siphoning away its best talent every year? McIlroy argued the former. Woosnam argued the latter. Both had valid points, and the debate between them reflected a larger tension in professional golf, where the lines between tours are blurring and the future of the sports ecosystem is uncertain. As for McIlroy's own tournament hopes, after his bogey-free 67 on Friday, he sat 5 shots off the lead heading into the weekend, very much in contention for a 3rd PGA Championship title. Whether he could channel his frustration into performance remained to be seen. For more coverage in golf, subscribe and hit the notification bell.